Ladies and gentlemen, I've been involved with these environmental negotiations since 1997, when as the lead negotiator, I completed for Europe and for the globe the Kyoto Agreement. I've attended every COP since then, and this is my fourth visit to this wonderful conference that takes place here. I want to comment on my experience from that, because we're only 10 months away from finding that agreement at Paris, and we must find that agreement at Paris. And I have been through all those negotiations through the night. Sometimes we get some advances, sometimes we don't. I hope this time you have to get the agreement. And indeed, what I want to talk about particularly is this business of sustainability and sustainable production it's got here. But production means so many different things to different people. Sustainable production can mean business as usual. We don't believe that means sustainability. It's a very threat to sustainability itself. But in a way, the opinion has grown now that almost split between North and South, which has constantly been there, the increasing inequalities that are existing in our economy, where the rich are getting richer in the countries and the poor are getting poorer. And that's the reality, despite all these negotiations. Now, what I want to say is that's almost reflected in two bodies. We meet here in the first week of February. Davos, the home of the rich, meet in January at the end. And what's interesting, it reflects all the CEOs. I don't know how many people here went to Davos. Can I ask you how many went to Davos? Well, there's an answer. What they talk about in Davos is the sustainability as business as usual. How can we keep on going? How can we lift up the economy? In fact, last year, they actually made a decision, not much about the environment. They made a decision that they were going to drill for oil in the Arctic. Well, since everybody knows, and the scientists are constantly telling us, that 8 times the amount of oil and resources lie on the ground, 8 times greater than we can afford to burn if we are to keep that commitment to climate change, which is about the increasing climate temperatures. The world signs up for that, and then they buddy off down to Davos and come to a separate agreement, because what they mean by sustainability, they mean sustainability of business as usual. How do we get the interest rates down? Well, even this year, they went to cybersecurity. Well, it's very important, hardly anything to do with the poverty in most of the world, the inequalities, the problems coming from failing to do anything about climate change. Now, what they are arguing, of course, is about growth, and we're arguing about growth. But we have the essential point, as always been said here in New Delhi at this conference, you can't get sustainable growth unless you deal with the issue of climate change and the problems that come from that. So there's 2 schools of thought, and we've got 10 months to bring them together. Now, I don't know whether New Delhi could arrange for Davos and the New Delhi conference here to be a meeting of minds, but all the people who are making those decisions will be involved in the decisions at Paris. That's what worries me. Now, I've seen it near breakdown once before. Copenhagen. I was there when it happened, and it's just been mentioned. And Copenhagen actually collapsed because it didn't have proper direction. But more than that, it didn't have the full support of people. They were divided about the issue. And what we're different to Kyoto now is that was 40 industrial countries. We're now talking about 191, with a growing inequality between the richer part and the poorer part, or the north and south of our global economy. So I think what we have to do is to bear in mind that this issue of sustainability, we've still to win the argument. Sustainability means what our scientists have told us: if we continue with business as usual, burning the carbon at the rate we do, then we will face the consequences which they've predicted for long enough, of which we have to take account. And I would congratulate Dr. Pachauri. His scientist group and the APPC have produced a wonderful piece of work. I'm pleased to hear he's thinking of other work now that that work might not be completed. But the environment argument is still the issue. The scientists have proven, and the greater majority accept it, The big issue now is political will. Have we got the political will to make the kind of changes that are necessary to achieve the sustainable growth that we talk about, where growth has to be accompanied with the environmental changes to avoid the catastrophe that is posed for us? So that, to me, is the big challenge. And I worry as this begins to limit at Kyoto, we had the various oil interests, I hope my colleague doesn't mind, various steel, coal, and all those came and told us, don't do this, it's nonsense. But we managed to get that agreement on Kyoto. Now the interests are still there, wanting to play a part, but they're more embodied with maintaining their interests, not the global one. Global means to them is bigger markets to produce more, to make more money. So there is a real conflict of interest here if we are to solve this problem of Paris. Let me make clear in regard to Paris, we have to get the agreement today. There's no doubt about it. 2015 will be the most significant milestone in these arguments. And therefore, what we have to do is make sure that Paris is full supported. Not Fabius, who came along here and told us and gave us a framework of what he thinks needed to be done. I'm pleased to hear a leader who's going to be responsible at the time of the Paris Agreement talking in the language that we think is important. Namely, it has to be universal. It's not for a few at the cost of the many. Namely, we have to look at the technology. We have to change our kind of production, look at our consumption patterns. These are very important and difficult issues to deal with, but more so when you have to do it with 191 countries. So I hope we can give him that full support. Political support means everybody here actually playing a part, because you all play them in your own countries, in your own regions, and we've got to make that position clear. Act on those who are doing the negotiation, get together to get that agreement. France is going to play a very important part, and we have to give them the full support so they're speaking for all of us in them forums that have to make these difficult decisions. That, to me, is the biggest issue to be faced. Now, I would say there are some issues that are good. It's been mentioned that China, America, and Europe got together on some of the gas cuts. Great, that's a step forward. We're now talking about the money, as other speakers have spoken. You better find the money for that to deal with adaptation and mitigation, which is very critical. And we have to recognize the UN principle about the fair share based on the UN principles of common but differentiation responsibilities. That's a very big issue if we're going to solve it. So we need to deal with it, the money for adaptation, etc. So my time is up. I just want to say, though, we have to move from having the debates about the individual issues to find a global agreement. It's about governance. It's about morality. It's about what's right. And we are on the side there. I'm proud to have been associated here with TERI and this conference. But historically, I think I should say, and it always impressed me, A, we've got to support the French in Paris, and we'll do all we can for that. But you know, the 19th century of our economy was concerned with production. In the 20th century, we've been concerned with consumption. In the 21st century, we better start getting contained with about sustainability. Sustainability that saves our planet, recognizes the climate change problems for the economy, all which this institution has been saying for years. Many congratulations to them. Now we have to find the political pressure to see that it's delivered. Thank you.